I never believed in ghost stories, and I definitely didn't believe in the idea that someone could be living inside your house without you knowing. That kind of thing only happens in movies or on late night true crime shows you watch once and forget. But 3 months ago, I learned something that still makes my skin crawl when I walk into my own kitchen at night, because someone was living in my house and I had no idea. It started with something so small I almost ignored it. A door slightly open. I live alone. I'm obsessive about locking everything before bed. Front door, back door, even the hallway closet. So when I came home from work one Tuesday evening and saw the pantry door cracked open, I remember pausing for a second. I stood there holding my keys, staring at the thin black line of darkness inside. I told myself I probably forgot to shut it properly that morning. I laughed it off. People forget things, and I'm not perfect. I walked over and pushed it closed. The click sounded louder than usual. That night I couldn't sleep, but I blamed it on caffeine. The next morning, I woke up late. I rushed through my routine, grabbed my bag, and headed out. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing felt different. But when I came back home that evening, something was off. Not dramatically. Not like a robbery. It was subtle. My couch cushion looked slightly depressed, like someone had been sitting there. I live alone. I don't have pets. I stared at it for a long time. Then I pressed down on the other cushion to compare. They looked identical. I convinced myself I was imagining things. That's how it begins, I think. You gaslight yourself. You choose logic over instinct. Over the next few days, small things kept happening. My shampoo bottle felt lighter. A fork was left in the sink when I clearly remembered washing all the dishes. The shower curtain was slightly pulled to one side when I always center it. These were things you could easily blame on distraction, on memory lapses, on stress. But the feeling started to grow. The feeling that I wasn't alone in my house anymore. I checked all the locks every night. I even installed a new deadbolt. I told myself I was being paranoid. One Friday night, I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. The TV was off. I never turned it off. I always let it run until morning. My first thought was power outage, but the microwave clock was still glowing. The apartment was completely silent. Too silent. I sat up slowly. My heart was pounding for no reason I could explain. That's when I heard it. A faint sound from above me. A soft creak. I live in a small one-story house. There is no second floor. Just an attic. An unfinished, dusty attic I've never used. The creak came again. Slow. Careful. Like someone shifting their weight. I froze. Every horror movie I'd ever seen flashed through my mind. I told myself it was wood expanding, temperature changes, houses make noises. But deep down, I knew. That sound was deliberate, measured, human. I didn't move for nearly 10 minutes. I just sat there in the dark living room, staring at the ceiling. Eventually, the silence returned. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day, I bought a cheap indoor security camera from a hardware store. Nothing fancy. Just something I could check from my phone. I placed it in the living room, angled toward the hallway and kitchen. That night, I locked everything and went to bed with my phone in my hand. Around 2:47 a.m., I woke up to a notification. Motion detected. I felt my throat tighten instantly. I opened the app. The camera feed loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. At first, I saw nothing. The living room was empty, the hallway dark. Then the image adjusted to night vision, and I saw something that made my entire body go cold. The attic hatch in the hallway ceiling was slightly open, just a few inches. I had never opened it, not once. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. The hatch moved, just a little more. A thin line of darkness widened. I waited for a face, a hand, something, but nothing emerged. It just stayed open, like it was watching. I don't remember deciding to move. I just remember suddenly being out of bed, grabbing the baseball bat I keep in my closet, and walking into the hallway. My legs felt weak. Every step sounded too loud. When I reached the hallway, I looked up. The hatch was closed, completely shut. No gap, no opening. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would pass out. I climbed onto a chair and pushed against the hatch. It resisted at first, then gave way. A cloud of dust fell into my face. The attic was pitch black. I used my phone flashlight and slowly raised it above the opening. Insulation, wooden beams, old boxes from the previous owner, nothing else. I climbed up halfway and scanned every corner. Empty, completely empty. I told myself the camera must have glitched. Maybe the angle made it look open. Maybe I imagined the movement. I closed the hatch tightly and went back to bed. But I didn't sleep. The next morning, I reviewed the footage, frame by frame. The hatch was definitely open. I watched it move, slowly, deliberately. I watched it stay open for exactly 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Then, without any visible hand, it gently lowered back into place. I replayed it at least 20 times. My mind tried to create explanations, air pressure, faulty hinge. But something inside me had shifted, something primal. That evening, I called my friend Marcus and told him everything. He laughed at first, said I'd been watching too many horror videos. But when I showed him the footage, he stopped smiling. He stared at the screen quietly. "That's not normal," he said. We decided to check the attic together, in daylight, with proper flashlights. We pulled the hatch down and climbed up fully this time. The attic wasn't large, maybe 20 feet across. Insulation covered most of the floor. Old cardboard boxes were stacked near the corner. Marcus walked ahead of me, scanning slowly. That's when he stopped. "Dude," he whispered. In the far corner, the insulation was flattened. Not randomly, intentionally, like someone had been lying there. There was a slight depression, shaped almost like a body. My mouth went dry. Marcus crouched down and brushed the area with his hand. Beneath the insulation, we found something else, an empty plastic water bottle. It wasn't dusty. It looked recent. I felt the world tilt slightly. I don't store water bottles in the attic. I barely ever drink bottled water. We searched more carefully after that. Behind one of the old boxes, we found a small pile of snack wrappers, protein bars, chips, all opened carefully, folded, hidden. My breathing became shallow. Someone had been up here recently. Marcus looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not joking, not skeptical, afraid. "You need to call the police," he said. And that's when I heard it again. A sound from below us. A soft click, like a door closing. The sound came from directly below us. A soft, unmistakable click. Not wood settling, not pipes, a door. Marcus and I froze in the attic, staring at each other in complete silence. The house felt different now, smaller, like it was holding its breath. "You locked the front door, right?" Marcus whispered. My throat felt tight. "Yeah, I always do." We moved slowly toward the attic opening. Every step across the beam sounded like thunder in my ears. Marcus climbed down first while I held the flashlight over him. The hallway below looked normal, quiet, still. He stepped onto the floor and scanned left and right. Nothing. I followed him down, gripping the bat so tightly my hands hurt. The air in the house felt heavier than before, almost stale. We checked the front door first, Locked, deadbolt secure, window shut. The back door also locked. Everything looked exactly how it should. But something had made that sound. We both heard it. We searched room by room, bathroom, bedroom, closet, shower curtain. Under the bed, nothing. No sign of forced entry. No broken locks. No open windows. After 20 minutes of searching, Marcus tried to calm me down. Maybe it was the attic shifting when we were up there. But he didn't sound convinced. Neither of us did. That night, Marcus insisted on staying over. We set up 2 more cameras, one facing the hallway, one in the kitchen. We left the attic hatch slightly dusted with flour around the edges so we'd know if it moved. We turned off all the lights and waited. Midnight passed. Then 1 a.m., then 2 a.m. Nothing happened. Around 3:30 a.m., exhaustion finally pulled us into a light. Sleep on the living room couches. I don't know what woke me first, the sound or the vibration of my phone. But I opened my eyes to darkness and a notification glowing on the screen. Motion detected. Kitchen camera. My heart immediately began pounding. I nudged Marcus awake and opened the live feed. The kitchen was empty at first glance. Fridge, counter, sink, still. Then something shifted near the bottom of the frame. The pantry door. It moved slowly, opening from the inside. Not wide, just enough to create a narrow gap. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. "Is someone in there?" he whispered. We watched as the gap widened another inch, then another. The darkness inside the pantry looked unnatural, like it had depth. And then we saw it. Fingers. Pale fingers wrapping around the edge of the door from inside. My entire body went numb. The hand gripped the door frame carefully, slowly, testing. The door opened just enough for a face to begin emerging, but before we could see clearly, the screen glitched, the feed froze, static flickered, then it went completely black. Marcus and I didn't speak. We just stared at each other in horror. The kitchen was 20 feet away from us, in the same house, in the dark, and someone was inside the pantry. Marcus grabbed the bat from my hands. "Call the police," he whispered urgently. My fingers trembled so badly I could barely dial. As I whispered to the dispatcher, we heard something from the kitchen, a soft shuffle, then a quick, light footstep. Not heavy, not rushed, careful, intentional, the kind of step someone makes when they're trying not to be heard. Marcus motioned for silence. The footsteps moved from the kitchen toward the hallway, toward us. I felt like my heart might explode out of my chest. The hallway camera notification buzzed. Motion detected. I opened it with shaking hands. The feed came through in night vision. The hallway was empty for 3 long seconds. Then something dropped down from above the frame. The attic hatch. It fell open suddenly, and from it, a man lowered himself silently into the hallway. He was thin, dirty, wearing dark clothes. His movements were smooth, practiced. He didn't look around in panic. He moved like he knew the house, like he'd done this before. He landed softly and stood still for a moment, listening. Marcus inhaled sharply beside me. The man's head turned slightly toward the living room, toward us. I don't know if he could see us in the darkness, but it felt like he could feel us watching. Then he started walking forward, slowly, one quiet step at a time. The police sirens began faintly in the distance. The man froze mid-step, his head tilted, listening. The sirens grew louder. Suddenly, his calm demeanor shattered. He spun around and sprinted back down the hallway. We heard the scramble of feet against the wall as he climbed onto something, maybe the hallway table, and pulled himself back into the attic with terrifying speed. The hatch slammed shut above him, just as red and blue lights began flashing through the front windows. The police arrived within minutes. We explained everything, showed them the footage. They searched the attic carefully this time, with weapons drawn. What they found made everything worse. In the far corner beneath the insulation, they uncovered a small nest. Blankets stolen from my closet, food wrappers, bottles, a flashlight, and something else, a notebook. It was old and dirty, pages filled with messy handwriting, dates, times, notes, observations about me. Leaves at 8:32 a.m., showers at 10:15 p.m., sleeps on couch Fridays, talks in sleep sometimes. My hands went ice cold reading those lines. He had been watching me, studying me, living above me for weeks, maybe months. The officers searched the attic further and found a small vent opening that led down into the pantry ceiling. A cut section of drywall, barely noticeable from below. He had created an access point. He could drop down silently whenever I left, or whenever I slept deeply enough. He had been in my kitchen, my living room, possibly even my bedroom. The realization hit me like a wave of nausea. The police eventually found him 2 blocks away, hiding behind a shed. He had been living like that for years, they said, moving from house to house, finding attics, crawl spaces, empty properties, slipping in unnoticed, surviving off stolen food, watching, waiting. When they brought him past my house in handcuffs, I saw his face clearly for the first time. He didn't look insane. He didn't look angry. He looked calm, almost disappointed, like we had interrupted something important. But here's the part that still keeps me awake at night. The police told me something quietly before they left. They said based on the condition of the attic nest, he had likely been there longer than I realized. Maybe even before I moved in. Which means there were nights when I thought I was alone in a new house. Nights I walked around in pajamas. Nights I sang in the shower. Nights I slept peacefully. And someone was above me, listening, watching, waiting. I don't live there anymore. I moved out 2 weeks later. But sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night in my new apartment, I hear a soft creak above me. And even though I know there's nothing there, I still look at the ceiling